So last year I shared the goal of building this into a $10 million per year company. How is that going? Here's our state of the company address. Let's discuss. Busted window number 1, busted windows 2 and 3. I had 3 separate break-ins. I wanted to show you the real truth. Welcome back to Brian Bandas Builds a Business, where we talk real estate development and business building and how to do both while staying sane and healthy in mind, body, and spirit. So I'm gonna be candid with you right out of the gate. I set that goal a little over a year ago and promptly got crushed. Now, most people with a YouTube channel, I don't think they're gonna share this with you because we feel the need to look like we are constantly successful. If I'm supposed to be telling you guys about real estate, then I better be perfect at real estate development, right? Here's the video where you discover that I am definitely not. And I want to share that with you because this channel is about the journey. It's about the process, right? Business building is an ongoing process. It's not a finish line. And sometimes that process is awesome and we're excited and we have big wins, and sometimes we flat out get smoked. And today is story time about getting smoked. Over the last couple years, we saw build costs go absolutely through the roof. When I pro forma my first couple builds as a developer, I was looking at roughly $110 a square foot. I'm now up almost to $200 per square foot to be safe. And that's not custom homes, by the way. That is spec builds, infill, decent homes, but nothing wild and crazy. We saw sales prices drop because rates went up, and so what that meant was I was selling stuff for less, or I was sitting on it longer, all while holding stuff at a higher interest rate, and frankly paying almost double per project what I anticipated paying in terms of interest costs. And that, my friends, is a recipe for a lot of fun for a real estate developer. Add on top of that, if I'm being candid, I introduced a new variable to the company, and that is I took the general contracting hat and I just started to wear that hat. Instead of contracting it out to builders, I brought that under the umbrella of my own company. Now, I have full conviction that that was absolutely the right thing to do. I'm excited about it. However, I can say honestly that despite my best efforts, I still didn't build in enough cushion to account for me being a new GC and some of the additional carrying costs because I would move slower, or some of the additional costs because I would miss things or hire the wrong sub. I did build in cushion, it just wasn't quite enough. Now, one of the beautiful things about the journey of business building is that if you don't quit, you can go through a time like that, and I can look at that and say, I didn't build enough cushion, here's the subs that I should have used differently, here's things I should have caught. And now, a couple years in, I am significantly better at that than I was. In fact, just the other day, my kid was telling me about a lyric in a song that he heard. A song called Whole Team Winnin', I wanna say by Kanata Small. He goes, Dad, you wanna know my favorite lyric? It's from that song and it says, we only win or we learn, you know that we never lose. I thought, man, not only is that perfect, I'm glad my son is learning that, and I wear a shirt that talks about failing fast and failing forward. That's always fun to talk about until you experience it and you get your ass kicked a little bit, and that's where I am. So I am determined to take what has been a challenging year and use it to make me better at what I'm doing, and so far that is happening. It has definitely been a catalyst for growth, and that's what I want to share with you today on the state of the company. I want to try to take a genuinely honest look at what's going on, and this is really for the people who are trying to learn how to develop and trying to learn how to build a company. And first I want to tell you that it's really, really easy to make things sound really great and rosy and peachy keen. I'm going to give you an example. Here is what I would say if I just wanted to make it sound like I'm out here killing it and everything's great. I have built my company up to where I have just under 40 units in the pipeline. I've got 4 $1.3 million units under contract for sale with profitability on all 4 of those. I just sold another 4 units. I've got another 8 units on the market, and we've got a number of them that we are starting the build process on. Man, things are awesome. That's what I would say if I just wanted to gloss it over and make myself sound great. But let's go visit some of the properties and I'll tell you about what's really going on. So this is the Basswood property. We got 2 houses going up in West Nashville. Man, we just had a bunch of rain and snow. This site's a little rough. Actually, it doesn't look that bad on video. Brick starts today. We're gonna have brick facades here, kind of around the front stoop, and it'll go on up that way. Brick siding is gonna come in right behind them, and then we also have concrete going in. concrete for our garage floors, concrete for the top of this stoop right here. So we got a lot happening over the next 7-8 days that'll really help. As soon as I get that garage floor in, the garage door goes in, I can really get this thing locked up tight and we start knocking out a lot of the interior stuff. Electrical's in, plumbing starts next week as well. And the big threat is changes that NDOT and Metro Water have made. So I went from planning to pay, you know, let's call it $10,000 per unit to do my water and sewer connections, to all of a sudden they're making us do a whole lot more, including repaving basically the whole street, you know, the length of our lot. And so I've got this $10,000 line item that might end up being, you know, $30,000 or $40,000 per unit. I mean, it just depends on how crazy they get with what they make us do. But this is going to be a cool project. These houses are going to be cool, and I'm looking forward to getting the exteriors on and really starting to knock out the interior. Thankfully, as I've improved as a builder, we are actually under budget right now. Now, anything can happen, but I'm getting better and better subs, better and better prices, and my process is far more efficient, so we're getting there. All right, so we are on site at 4 houses over on Rosewood Avenue. This is sort of near Belmont in Nashville. These houses are just about done. We've got 4 contracts. I'm a happy man. There's some profit here that I'm looking forward to harvesting. We're almost done. So we're doing a lot of punch list stuff. We're finishing up a lot of stuff for the city, trying to perfect, you know, everything from our mechanical inspections and gas meter installation, all that stuff. So we're on the tail end. These are gonna be really cool houses. I've been showing them on this channel for, honestly, for too long. So we got 1, 2, and then over here we got 1, 2, you can sort of see. And I'm proud of these. They're pretty. It's a really beautiful area. Thankfully, even in this market, which is challenging, they sold fairly quickly. These are houses that I was building, as I was building them, I was thinking, I wish I could just build this and move in here. These are selling for right around 1.3 million each, and it's gonna feel good to close these out, make a profit. That to me is a big step, is that these are some of the first units that I not only developed, but general contracted these. So I developed profitably and successfully a number of houses, obviously, before this, but in the last couple years, I started GCing my own. And this is a successful project that I developed and contracted, and pretty proud of that. So these 4, man, we are on the tail end doing punch lists. In this white house right here, I had to go back in for the buyer and add a big freestanding tub with these jets and everything. It's gonna be really cool. So we're working on that and headed toward the finish line. This is the Foster Avenue project. You guys have seen this one many times because, quite frankly, we've been working on it way too long. This was the first project that I took on as a GC, and in many ways that has shown as I've worked through this thing. But we are at the finish line. They're listed. We're polishing up a couple of punch list items, but we do have one other thing to deal with. Let's go look. These are my 3 new friends. Busted window number 1, busted windows 2 and 3. During our crazy frozen snow week here, I had 3 separate break-ins. They didn't steal anything, they just broke in and vandalized stuff. Smashed lights, smoked about 20 blunts, might have been 30. So instead of this one being listed, we are currently making some repairs, and then these will be ready. But man, I wanted to put this one on here because this has been a brutal learning experience. And I wanna share that because I wanna be realistic, as I've said in this video. There is very little and possibly no profit left in this deal. It depends on where we sell it. And it has just taken far longer than it should. And that's just a part of the learning curve, unfortunately. We've had a lot of problems, like legitimate problems that I couldn't control on this one. And then add to that, I would say, like, there's just some, hey, this is my first one, and there's some inexperience and some things that could have been more efficient time-wise and cost-wise, and that's just the price of learning to do something new. So it's worth it, in my opinion, but a lot of discomfort and pain with this project. So one of the things I'm really excited about on this project is in this downstairs office, instead of doing windows, we wanted to do these giant pieces of plywood. And we just thought it sort of gave it this really sort of clean, organic, it's almost like a take on like the Scandinavian style. Just kidding, it's the worst. Hey, by the way, here we are back in the office. I wanted to take a quick second because I told you on the last video that I'm giving away another free book. Boom! Real Estate Development 101 by Bandas. The 3 keys to unlocking your first deal. Get it? Keys? Unlocking? You gotta like that wordplay. So the free book goes to It's Brassy 1711. Appreciate the comment. Hope the conversation was helpful. And since this video is all about moving into the new year and assessing where my company's at and talking about goals, drop me a comment below if you want a chance to get a copy of this book. By the way, it's 10 bucks on Amazon, so if you don't get a free copy, just go grab it. It's well worth it. I'm not getting rich off of these $10 books. I don't even know how many I've sold, 30 or something. But I do think that the information here is a really helpful way to sort of dip your toe in the water and just check out what it's all about. So if you do want a copy of the book, leave a comment below and let me know, what are you excited about going into this year in terms of your real estate development and your business building? What have you got your sights on? What are your goals? What are you gonna accomplish in 2024? Now back to the building projects. All right guys, so here is Sneed Road project. This house is gonna be incredible. This is my highest price point that I've ever done. We're targeting a $4.5 million sales price. Right now, I was gonna shoot inside, but it's pretty loud. They're doing drywall. They've got these big heaters going. So we're doing drywall now, and right after that, my trim guys are gonna swing in. We've got flooring being delivered on Monday, so it can acclimate while my trim guys do their thing. So we're making good progress over here. One of the big things that's not done yet is that I've got quite a bit of site work to do, not just to kind of clean it up and grade it, but really we need to do some pretty special stuff here as far as landscaping goes. But this is probably has the potential to be my most profitable project. And so far we're doing pretty good on the budget. So man, I've got a number of projects that are somewhat problematic, and I'm really thankful for this one because so far it's looking pretty good. It's gonna be a really beautiful house. One of the things I can't decide is whether or not to leave this brick as is or to paint it. We've got these cool stone accents, which you can see right here. And initially I wanted to I didn't want to do painted brick. I want to stay kind of natural looking, but I'm kind of thinking like an off-white painted brick is going to look amazing with that stone. We'll see. The challenge, one of the biggest challenges in this, and I've talked about it a ton with the whole idea of cash flow management, is for me to plan for my company, I have to have income projections. Now I have the potential on this project to make somewhere in the $400,000 to $500,000 range if everything goes according to plan, and that's a big if. Do we have issues that come up that mess up our budget? I mean, usually yes, to some degree. Are they huge? Are they small? Who knows? And the bigger thing on this one is the price point. There's a house similar in size that sold up the street for a lot more than we're hoping to get for this, but they also had this big oasis in the backyard, this pool that, you know, pretty spectacular. And so it's really hard to adjust. They got like over $1 million more than we're hoping to get. And I don't think that pool is $1 million pool. So, but it's really hard. You know, if we are planning to get 4.5 and we get 4, that really significantly changes my financial plans. And so that's one of the big challenges with all of this is going, hey, I've got my projections and that's all they are until the deal is closed out. And all I can do is give it my best guess. And like, sometimes that guess is great and sometimes it gets obliterated. And last but not least, here we are at Duke Street. You guys have also seen this one. This is the other one, man. This one and the last one I showed you, Foster, they have just been brutal. And on this one in particular, I didn't build it. It has all just been kind of getting beat up, unfortunately, by the city. We went a number of rounds with stormwater just to even get to build it, only to finish it and have them say, actually, just kidding. The original plan doesn't work anymore, do a new one. So we paid our engineer for another plan, which included redoing a whole bunch of all that crap back there. And this is an alley that goes way back to another street. We had to like basically dig up a trench, lay a culvert all the way back there, like 300 feet, and repave. I mean, we just got absolutely smoked left and right on this. And we are losing. And when I say we're losing on this one, what I mean is when we close, not only will we not get our money back with and then get some profit, we won't even get all of our initial investment back. So this is a losing project, and that's okay. I mean, it's not okay like I don't care, but I can't do anything about it. And you don't get to do this without the risk of loss. And so the goal is to have more wins than losses and bigger wins than losses, and to win, you know, overall. So I always tell my boys, like, I like to think about NBA players. Like, even the best NBA players, you don't get to play in the NBA and never get dunked on. LeBron James has been dunked on. Kobe got dunked on. Like, it happens. It's just part of playing in the big leagues if you want to. And so, man, it's painful to lose. It's really disappointing. And this has been a really tough project. We got these 4 units. They're finished. They are listed for sale. And it's one of those things where just getting them off the books, you know, it frees up mental and emotional capacity. It frees up, obviously it frees up debt and cash flow. So getting them sold even at a loss will still be a win for us and allow us to keep moving forward. Here's what I've got in permitting, all right? I've got 4 units on Ireland Street. We've really been struggling with permitting on this. We got hit with some really unexpected expenses in terms of stormwater and some sort of special sewer conservation thing that we didn't know about and weren't told about when we purchased the lot. And unfortunately, that has added quite a bit to our timeline and permitting. We're talking almost a year, as well as what we've had to pay engineers for engineering plans for stormwater. So that's been a pretty painful experience, and I can look at that one and honestly say, man, there was no way we could have seen that coming. Just is what it is. Next, we have a 10-unit townhome property on Douglas Avenue. And right now, unfortunately, we have decided that we're gonna try to unload this piece of property instead of building here. But I am gonna look for investor partners to try to keep the project alive. Some of my financial partners decided they want out of this thing. Totally normal, it happens. I'm gonna try to keep it alive instead of selling it. We'll see what happens. And I share these details because I don't want to pretend that everything is perfect. In fact, given the way that the market has changed in the last year, we've got a number of projects that are a bit problematic. I've got another 5-build townhouse unit. Now this one's going to be non-owner occupied Airbnbs. We're pretty close to being done with permitting, and I'm really excited about this one. The challenge there really is going to be getting the loan. All the banks have tightened up and we have it on a lot loan. And I've got to sell some of these other projects to open up some debt and get a construction loan to start building these things. But once we do, it's going to be a huge win. We're going to build, we're going to have a ton of built-in equity. We're going to refinance and hold them as Airbnbs. So that one I'm excited about, but man, it's probably going to be at least another 1.5 years, I would think, until the project is done. And as we talked about on previous videos, that means for 1.5 years, I'm going to pay carrying costs that as we build, those monthly costs will go up. Next, I've got a property in Columbia, Tennessee, and the city just told me that if I want to build there, I have to put in a roughly $100,000 pump station to bring water up to this site. And we're talking about 3 small duplexes. I mean, for goodness sake, we're probably building them for $200,000 each, and I'm supposed to spend 100 grand on a pump station. That is, as you can imagine, pretty catastrophic to our numbers. So I haven't said, yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm trying to go back and forth with the city and figure out another solution. That's another sort of painful one right there that I had no way of seeing coming. Lastly, I've got a 2-build that's actually permitted, and we're just waiting to finish up our construction loan. It's right around the corner from the Basswood property we went to see. Very similar project, almost the same floor plan, really similar price range. And so I'm hoping to get that loan done and I can catch that up to Basswood and sort of do all 4 of those at the same time. So those are the current projects. I've got to sell some before I can buy more. But here's what I want you to see. I've got a business that I'm excited about. It's growing, but it is hard. And there are problems kind of everywhere I look right now. We've got lending problems. We've got legitimate permitting problems. We've got funding and financing problems. This whole career is you signing up to solve constant problems. And frankly, some of them are pretty big. The payoff can be worth it. And to me, the whole point is that the payoff can be worth it, but I've got to be prepared for those problems to come, and my whole job is problem solve. So I went on a business planning retreat just before the start of the year to try to assess sort of where my business is and what are the goals going into 2024. So given the way that the last year to 1.5 years has unfolded, and frankly, a lot of this painful stuff began almost immediately after I set the goal to build this to a $10 million per year company, I wanted to answer two important questions. And the first one is a big one. It was, is building this into a $10 million company still my goal? Is that still the right goal? Do I want to do that? Does it make sense to do that? Is it worth it? On that business trip, I took a couple long walks and basically walked and prayed and thought. And my takeaway was that the goal is not wrong for me, but I have to continue to learn. I have to learn patience. Frankly, I think my issue wasn't the wrong goal. It was setting this made up timeline rather than patiently building this thing slow and steady so that the foundation was much more robust. To say I cut it close would probably be an understatement. I will tell you candidly that there were times this year where I was Googling things about bankruptcy and how do you walk through that and survive it and that type of thing. Thankfully, I don't think that's where we're going, but there's been a lot of uncertainty. So step one was, is this the right goal? For the time being, I believe it is, although I believe that my timeline, in a good way, can slow down. And that brings us to step two. What is the focus of 2024? And I found myself writing down the steps to rebuild Anchor Acquisitions, which is the name of my holding company. Not necessarily to rebuild it as if it's been completely toppled, but I have to lay a better foundation in terms of my systems, in terms of my lending relationships, and in terms of my monetary and cash positions. I learned a lot of things the hard way when it comes to cash flow management and what kind of liquid cash is required to run a company like this. Spoiler, what I thought was a lot is not enough. So here's what I came up with. Over the course of 2024, my goals are improve my Bandas contracting systems. That's the construction arm of my business. I've got to systemize our selections. I've got to have a much more concise system of scheduling and keeping the jobs moving. I've got to have better tracking of our cost to actual in terms of our build budget. And I've got to get some help in streamlining my permitting process. All of those things will save us time and money and make each project more potentially profitable. Secondly, I have to improve my Anchor Acquisition systems, and that's my development and holding company. I've got to improve our bookkeeping. I've got to improve our company's monthly and annual budgets. I also have to improve some of my hiring, my training, my accountability, and my management of my people. Thirdly, I have to build banking relationships. I have relied on one really excellent relationship, and I learned this year how vulnerable I am if I only have one really solid banking relationship. So I need to build 2 to 3 more really good, solid, healthy banking relationships. And lastly, it's all about stabilizing in terms of my cash flow. So I have new goals in terms of what kind of cash, liquid cash I want to have available. I want to have it set aside before I go back into acquisitions mode. Now, I think what that looks like is $200,000 in operating capital for my construction company. May need to be $250,000. I'm going to feel it out as we're doing more projects at a time. And unfortunately, until I get a business line of credit, that cash is pretty much spoken for. I'm constantly using it, paying large invoices and then reimbursing them from the loans. And another $500,000 liquid for the company. And that is from learning the hard way how quickly that can get eaten up by some of the operating expenses and interest carry of a company like this. So the focus this year will be on I have as profitably and efficiently as possible to stockpile some of that cash and give myself a foundation to build from that I didn't the first time around. My belief and my hope is that towards the end of 2024, I've put myself in a position to revisit the capital structure that I was working on over the last year, where I was going to pull together a general fund. I still believe in that model. I still think that's what I want to do and is worth doing. And I need to build a stronger foundation before I do that. So there you have it. That is the state of my company, or companies, I guess, technically. We have spent a good part of the last year, frankly, in survival mode, learning some lessons the hard way and trying to stabilize and keep things afloat through a challenging market. I don't know what 2024 is looking like. I've got some projections on current projects that at least tell me I should be able to cruise through and get to a better, more favorable market. But that's one of the things that's challenging in this business is, for instance, the big house on Sneed Road. Well, right now, if I hit my numbers, maybe we're making $550,000 on that. But what if we miss our numbers dramatically? What if the market stays depressed or does even worse as a reaction to election year or something like that, and I go from thinking we're making 500 to making 150 or something like that. That is one of the challenges, is trying to get realistic cash flow projections, and that's something that I've got to continue to improve. That comes under the heading of improving the systems of my company. So the reality is every entrepreneur has been through a season where they're not focused on the excitement of growth, where they're focused on stabilizing and learning and improving their systems and giving themselves a chance to survive and sort of live to fight another day. I know I'm not the only one who's been through that, but I don't think it's a real popular thing to talk about. So at the risk of not looking like the perfect entrepreneur beast who's made millions and you should definitely follow me because everything I do works, I wanted to show you the real truth. And if you are getting something out of that and you're inspired to develop real estate and build a company, then as usual, hook me up with one of those and one of those and one of those, and I'll see you next time.